All right, you guys excited?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yes.
This is always a fun one because I mean we don't promote it hardly at all. We just put the posters up, and I guess because it's hormones that everyone's got problems. So maybe that's why, I don't know. But this is always one of my favorites too because I just like to geek out over this kind of stuff. So if it's too much, you guys are more than welcome to ask questions. If I go too fast, then tell me to slow down. You probably don't want me to because I set a little timer here for a certain time, and I'm going to try not to go over it, but we'll see. So I want to start off with a quick story here. So this is Eliana. She's my little girl, and she's like a little fish. So she likes to swim all the time, every single day. Even if it's like 30 degrees outside, she'll find a way to get in some water. And but she doesn't know how to swim. So the other day I was I was adjusting patients. Went to my parents' house. She was being watched over there by some people. And they had some kids over there that were in the hot tub, and they were kind of creating turbulence, and of course she's like half the size of every other kid. So I kind of see out of the corner of my eye while I'm talking to the other parents that she's slipped into the middle, right? And nobody else is paying attention to her. So she goes down. Of course, she's got the little floaties on, right? But for her arms, they go to like right here, right? So instead of holding her here, they hold her here. So she's just sitting kind of underwater like this, this terrified face. And so, like any dad would do, run over there and rescue the little girl. And of course, she's terrified, she's crying, she's snotty, all these different things. And she immediately says, "Daddy, no more pool, no more swimming, no more swimming." And, I knew that if I just let it go then it's going to create the idea that it's okay to quit when there's a failure, right? So, and it's the lesson that I wanted to teach her was that no matter what, if you commit to something, you're gonna have failures. You're gonna know that you're gonna have failures. So we put her back in the pool, and of course she was reluctant, but after a period of time, she started to get used to it again, and then she wanted to play again, all over again, like it never happened. But this time she's a little bit more aware, and she's not gonna slip into the middle like she did before. So the reason I say that is because with a lot of these hormone problems that people have today, or really any health problems, it's not something that just happens like this. It's something that happens over a progression of time, okay? So it's between environment and then choices that we make along the way that create these hormone disruptions. So it's going to take time, and it's going to take trial and error, and it's going to take effort and failures to be able to get that back. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So don't feel like this is too much. Don't feel like you're overwhelmed. Don't feel like you can't do it, because you can, okay? And spread the message about that. And isn't she cute? Isn't she like adorable? A little Supergirl.
Looks like her mom.
Yeah, that's what everybody says, except a few people, but I don't know. That's probably a good thing anyway. But so some of the most common questions that we get in the office are hormone related. So night sweats, mood swings, low testosterone, libido problems, hair loss, all kinds of stuff. Sometimes that's hormone, sometimes it's not. But this is the biggest things that we get. And it's funny when I'm trying to brush up on all of these things, because there's so much depth with it, then as I'm reading and reading and reading, I realize that the same thing that we've been teaching for the last 10 years is the same cure for all of these problems, okay? So it's God created our bodies so that it can heal itself as long as we remove that interference, okay? So we have to find where that interference is in any of these 5 principles. And if you guys don't know the 5 essentials because you haven't been here, this is what they are, okay? So your mindset's the most important. The nerve supply, which is the chiropractic, that's removing the physical interference between the brain and the body. The nutrition, the oxygen and lean muscle, and then the minimizing of the toxins. We're going to touch on all of these today. But your health is always on a spectrum, just like I was saying. So at optimal levels, right, you're going to be born at 100%, and that's function. So as we travel through life, as we age, you collect damage. So you want to try and mitigate that damage the best that you can so that you don't age as well. Have you guys ever seen someone that's like 45 years old and they look super young and fit and great? And then you see this, a different 45-year-old and they look like they're 80, right? So the reason why is because of an accumulation of damage and bad habits. So it's much easier to prevent cancer than it is to fight cancer. Does that make sense? Cool. So there's going to be a test over this, so you guys are going to have to memorize this. I'm just kidding, there's not. So this is about the most simple version of the endocrine pathway that I could find, but it's really a symphony. So I want you to look at the very top. So this is the hypothalamus. I want you to think of this as the composer. This is the person writing the music. The next one is going to be the pituitary gland. So this is like sitting right here in your brain. They call it the third eye. This is the one that's actually conducting. Okay. Beyond that, it goes to 3 main pathways. So it's going to be the adrenals. Okay, the adrenals are going to be like the brass or the winds, because they can increase the tension or they can decrease the tension. And then you've got the thyroid, which is going to be like percussion, because it increases the rate of the music or it decreases the rate and the rhythm of the music. Same thing with your body. And then of course you've got the gonads, which is the stringed instruments, because they make beautiful music. So, that's just the way that works. This is another pathway that we're going to look at. I know none of you guys can see that, but you can see that it gets really, really convoluted. So we're going to kind of stick in these 2 circles here. This is the estrogen and cholesterol and progesterone, cortisol pathways, okay, with some thyroid in there. So this is the hypothalamus. I wanted to show you this real quick. We're not going to get too heady with this. Get it? It's a head? Oh, okay, whatever. So that's the hypothalamus right there, and then right below that is where that pituitary is. And then the rest goes through the brain, down the spinal cord, right through those vertebrae, which is why they need to be corrected. And then these are the things that we're going to look at. So we're really going to dive into estrogen and testosterone. The rest we're not going to hit on so much, but you're going to see how they all interact with each other as we go through. I think a lot of this is going to blow your mind. So if you can, write notes, but in your packets, I did give protocols for cortisol, I believe estrogen. I didn't put testosterone in there, so when you do get that up here, then you'll have to write it down, and thyroid. So pay attention to those. Okay, and then we're gonna focus on the 3 main ways to fix it. First is gonna be the hormone disruptors. So there's things in our lives every single day that are disrupting our hormones, or they're stealing the natural place of our hormones. The second one is gonna be the standard American diet, which is sad, right? And then it's gonna be the physical nerve stress, because the endocrine system is a slave to the nervous system. The nervous system is the one that created the endocrine system. Okay, so this is estrogen. Okay, beautiful lady, right? Pretty good looking. Yeah, pretty good looking lady. So what happens though is there's something called xenoestrogen. So xeno means foreign. So there's xenogens. Xenoestrogens are something that sneak into the body, and they take the place of estrogen, but they look just like estrogen. Okay? So the brain just gets really confused, the body gets confused, and it starts using the xenoestrogens instead of the regular estrogen to do what it's supposed to do, and you end up with lots and lots and lots of problems. Okay? So in a less, in a better way, here it is. So this is estrogen, okay? This is your cell. It has all these little receptors on it, okay? And then the estrogen comes in and it causes the cell to do something. So hormones are messengers. They go in and they send a signal to tell the cell to do something. The xenoestrogen looks just like it. It fits in there and it causes it to do something else, or to do too much of what the normal estrogen does do. So where are these at, and are we being affected by them? And the answer is yes. In fact, there were studies, which I'll show here, that show that something like 90% of all the plastics that we use release these xenoestrogens into our body. And this is, have you guys heard of BPA? BPA free, that kind of thing. BPA is bad, but they tested both, and they both release the xenoestrogens. So it's really, really hard to get away from. I mean, it's almost impossible to get away from all of the plastics. Everything is made out of plastic. We went plasticless here, but we really didn't, because there's a big plastic tank right there. Like, it's just so impossible to get rid of all the plastics. But what you want to do is minimize it the best that you possibly can. Okay, so I'm going to go back here a little bit. So you don't want to, a lot of the processed foods is how you're going to get the xenoestrogens from the hormones that are put into the animals. And then the plastics that, if you store your food in plastic, or if you leave it in the sun, or if you microwave it, or if you stick it in the oven or anything like that, you're leaching that directly into the food, and it's causing it to leak into your system, right? And it gets held up in your system, and if you end up with a leaky gut, or if you end up with a dysbiotic gut, it's going to hold on to it even more, and it's going to recirculate it, and it's going to cause more and more problems. Okay? So this is pretty amazing. The experts estimate that the average American ingests over 1 pound of pesticides a year. So that's a lot of pesticides when you put that into your body. And where does all that go? A lot of it doesn't just get excreted, it causes damage into your cells. In fact, a lot of your fat cells were designed to store or quarantine these toxins. So a lot of times when we put people on like a severe, like a weight loss diet, and they start losing a lot of weight, they get really, really sick. In fact, we had one lady, and she, when she would go to the bathroom, she took a lot of the sulfur drugs, way back in the day, and because of some infections that she had, and she started losing weight, and her urine started to be cloudy, and she tested it, and it was a bunch of sulfur that was in her system that was being held up by her fat cells. Pretty amazing. Okay. So some other things are the phthalates, which are plasticizers. It's kind of the same thing, which are in the plastic. Okay. And then soy. I wanted to talk about this one a little bit. Specifically, I mean, soy is in everything because it's incredibly cheap, and in all of it, 98% of it is genetically modified. Okay. So anything that you get in the store, most of the dressings and things like that are going to have soy in them. So you want to stay away from that. Now, a lot of the Asian, you might ask, like, why does a lot of the Asian cultures eat a lot of soy, and yet they're really heart healthy and all of that kind of stuff? And the reason why is because they ferment their soy. So you can actually ferment it, and it makes it okay. Things like, does anyone here like soy sauce? Uh-huh. I love soy sauce. So you can use tamari, which is a fermented soy sauce, or you can use liquid aminos, which is kind of like a pre-digested soy sauce. And then with this, I wanted to talk a little bit about baby formula. So has anyone here used baby formula? I mean, most mothers end up having to use it. So one of the problems is that a lot of them are from soy proteins. And so they did studies on rats where they gave them the soy version, and what happened was that the females ended up going into puberty way too early, and the men ended up with female traits. And then the women started developing cancers because the soy, again, stimulated a lot of this estrogen that was in the system over and over and caused problems. So if you're going to give your baby formula, then you want to go through, and you can create your own through coconut or through goat's milk, or you can have a dairy or a non-dairy. In fact, if you are interested in that, you can write down the Weston Price Foundation. They have a really awesome recipe for it. Okay, I want to show you a video real quick, just kind of proving that point.
Well, every parent says, my kids are growing up too fast, but these days, they really are.
Kids as young as 4 years old are starting puberty. Melissa McCready has this health alert.
It's early puberty to an extreme. One mother says that her daughter started before even seeing her first day of kindergarten. So what's causing it, and is there anything we can do to stop it? Sitting on the couch with her new iPad, you'd think 6-year-old Anaya Roll was right on track with all the other kids her age. But mom Nikki says 2 years ago, that was put in question.
She was about 4 years old, and I noticed that she looked like she was forming breasts.
A quick trip to the pediatrician provided what appeared to be an easy answer.
She told me that it was because she gained weight.
But Nikki's mom instinct told her it wasn't that simple. She took Anaya to Dr. Casey Jaime for a second opinion. He ran a test on Anaya called a bone age. The results, shocking.
It said that she was actually 7, almost 8. When she was actually 4.
And Nikki's daughter isn't alone. Dr. Jaime says in the last 10 years, a significant number of girls as young as 4 or 5 are developing the outward signs of puberty.
Body odor, adult body hair growth in certain areas, and breast enlargement, of course, in girls.
So why is this happening? First and foremost, our diets have changed with our fast-paced lifestyle. And it's not just what we eat, but what we eat out of, from Tupperware to plates, sippy cups, and bottles.
Plastic has a great source of chemicals.
In the meantime, Anaya is on medication that will stop her development until she's taken off of it. But Nikki has a warning for other parents.
If you go into your pediatrician and you feel that your kid's having breasts and they telling you something else, I mean, you need to go get a second opinion.
So what can you do? Dr. Jaime says that it helps to minimize fatty foods and the use of plastics, especially ones that are heated in the microwave, such as baby bottles or food in Tupperware containers. Melissa McCready, today's TMJ4.
Isn't that amazing? 4 years old and already hitting puberty. I mean, that little girl's going to have some problems if it keeps going. You might notice that they said to avoid fatty foods, but what they're talking about, if you looked in this lady's freezer, which me being, you know, who I am, I always look in people's freezers and kind of judge them a little bit. But if you notice, she had, like, you know, the corn dogs and the chicken nuggets and all that kind of stuff. So what they're talking about is really cheap meats, really cheap products with a lot of breading and coverings and all of that kind of stuff. That's the kind of stuff they're talking about, and it does cause problems. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about hormone replacement therapy. This is really, really popular. Okay, a lot of people have used it with good results and with bad results. But it can be dangerous. This is from John Abramson, which is a doctor from Harvard. He said that hormone replacement therapy not only doesn't decrease the risk of heart disease, which people thought that it did, strokes and Alzheimer's disease, it increases the risk. So, and then a woman's risk of breast cancer increases by 8% with each year of hormone replacement therapy. Not only that, but when you're on hormone replacement therapy, a lot of times you end up with you can end up with blood clots and things like that. Also increased in adrenal fatigue because of the excess estrogen. Now, it's come a long way since then. Back then, they were using a product called Premarin. I'm not sure if they use this anymore. Have you guys ever heard of this?
Oh, yeah. Not as much, Paul.
Not, okay, so yeah.
Not as much.
So that's okay. So this one is primarily, and correct me if I'm wrong. I got the pharmacist back there, so she can help me out. Premarin estradiol, primarily. Do you know? Yeah. So it's the strongest estrogen that you can take. And so what was really interesting is in 2003, after they gave us a warning about this, that's when all these ladies stopped. 1 year after, millions of women stopped taking the hormone replacement therapy, then breast cancer rates dropped by 7%. Now the interesting thing is that estrogen is made, at least certain types, there's several different types, but we're gonna kind of condense it to make it easy. Estrogen is for growth. I mean, it's for slowing things down, increasing the rate of growth, and expanding things. Can anyone think of why? Babies, right? That's why that happens. So how do they get this Premarin? It's actually pregnant mare urine. So that's where that comes from, this happy mom here. So they take it from the horse, they spin it out, and they take the estrogen from that. The other thing is that a lot of it ends up in the toilet bowl that goes through the system of water, and if you're not filtering your water, you can actually get some of those hormones in your water, which causes, a cascading effect later on. So you want to be filtering your water too. Does anyone feel kind of like this sometimes? So a lot of the estrogen dominance is the highest hormone disorder right outside of some of the thyroid stuff. But you'll find that a lot of estrogen disorders are what's causing the thyroid's dysfunction, and we'll talk about that in a second. So irritability, anxiety, hot flashes. I know I get asked about that one a lot. Insomnia, weight gain, migraines, depression, and this was funny to me. So. I showed this to my mom, and she's like, "Shut up." So really amazing. If you do have too much estrogen, like I said, it slows things down. So the estrogen actually binds onto the thyroid hormone and slows it down. So it slows down your thyroid. So if you're getting a lot of these xenoestrogens, if you're taking hormone replacement therapy, you could be getting too much of that estrogen, which is going to bind the thyroid and cause you to slow down and have a lot of those symptoms. So less T3, which is more weight gain and a lot of weight gain resistance. Remember, this is the percussion instrument of the symphony. It's the one that speeds it up and slows it down. So if you're artificially slowing it down, then everything else is going to slow down too. Okay, this was interesting to me too. This is thyroxine right here. So this is synthroid. So really tiny little, molecule. This is natural thyroid hormone. So this is not just T4, but T1, 2, 3, 4, and calcitonin. So much different when you get it in a desiccated, dried up form. So this is, I want to talk a little bit about methylation. I don't want to go too deep because that's, I'm sure you guys are just riveted by methylation. But this is one of the methylation cycles that uses a lot of methylation. You got your energy creation over here, heart health, and then a lot of the cortisol and stuff being made here. But the reason I put that up here is because one of the big problems with estrogen dominance or any kind of hormone dominance where one is higher than the other is because the body is not methylating correctly, which means it's not going through the right steps to get rid of it or to make the right hormones. How do you get rid of it, or what does this do? So first of all, it's going to be linked to estrogen imbalances. And I wanted to give a disclaimer here that we talked about environment and we talked about choices. With this one, it could in fact be a genetic predisposition. So there's something called an MTHFR test, which tests for 2 specific genes that will tell you whether you can methylate correctly or not. You can have one of the genes or you can have both. And if you do, then you're going to have a lot harder time balancing your hormones. So I want to let you know that. So and this is a kind of a little chart here. And I'm not going to talk about all of these, but all of this is needed for methylation, all of it. So if you're deficient in one of them, then it's not going to work correctly in one of these steps, which, as you can see, would throw off the entire thing. Okay, it's amazing to look at this and think that you know, people don't believe in God. It's pretty crazy. So one of the things that we do for methylation is going to be our detox system. So this increases the amount of methionine and glutathione which is in the system, which allows for methylation to occur, and then it'll bind those toxins that it's got in the body, and then it'll excrete them. So that's why we strongly recommend that anyone that's dealing with hormone problems takes one of these either once or twice or 3 times. In fact, I do it like once or twice a year, so just to make sure. I've got a cool thing at the end for you guys with that one. So we're going to jump into cortisol a little bit. Does anyone feel like they have really high cortisol? So high stress? Yes? No hands? You guys are just totally chill? We've got like 3 people. Everyone else is like too stressed out to raise their hands. So the high cortisol is actually another thing that's going to stop the thyroid from functioning. So it's going to stop the T4 to T3. So remember, T4 is the one that's inactive. T3 is the one that's active. And then reverse T3, which a lot of people don't test for, is an inactive form or a bound form of the active form. So that means T4 doesn't go to T3 and T3 doesn't work. Okay, so when you increase that cortisol, then the thyroid's going to slow down. Okay, which directly decreases the production of testosterone. So anyone here that's dealing with low libido or erectile dysfunction or any of those things, low energy, this could be one of those reasons because you're just too stressed out. So I'm going to give you guys some practical solutions to fix that here in just a little bit. So it competes with testosterone. It also competes with progesterone. So this is kind of a double-edged sword too, because with high cortisol, it'll compete with progesterone, but with high progesterone, it turns into cortisol. So it's like, well, what do you do? That's why you got to stick right in this little balance. You can't have too much of this or too much of that, which is why the hormone replacement therapy can go haywire. It may make you feel really, really good, and then it just starts to lose its efficacy because the body is too adapted to it, and it's getting thrown off. Okay. The other thing is that anytime you do have specifically testosterone, it turns it to estrogen. Okay. So cortisol balance. One of the best things that you can do is actually chiropractic. You guys may not know this, but there was a study, I don't have it up here, but a study where they gave adjustments to people that had high cortisol levels, salivary cortisol levels, so spit, and then they checked them afterwards, and they had a 25% decrease. So it actually decreased their cortisol levels, which is amazing. Okay, and they didn't have any back pain or any of that kind of good stuff. Okay, vitamin D and probiotics. That's one of the things that you want to do because that's how you process cholesterol, which is how you process hormones. Okay. Optimal omega, we're going to get into that one, but that's for oxidative stress, inflammation. So when I talked about age and damage and the difference between the two, the damage comes from what's called oxidative stress. That's where inflammation is. Okay, so the more inflamed you are, the faster you're going to age, the faster you're going to degenerate, the more problems you're going to have. Okay. So the daily detox, adrenal energy, and you guys should have this in your packet. Today we do have the B complex and the adrenal calm, 15% off if you want to get that. Now I don't like just giving everyone a bunch of pills. If you're one of my patients, I don't like prescribing a whole lot of pills. I'd rather you fix your lifestyle first before I give you anything. If you're not going to do it, I'll give it to you if you want it. But it's always, I don't want you to think that just taking supplements is going to fix your problem when really the underlying problem is the choices that has been made over a long period of time. Okay. Okay. This is I put estrogen and thyroid because they work hand in hand. This one's just more for the estrogen. Okay. So the vitamin D3 again, that's because of the cholesterol processing, inflammation, B complex, daily detox, max GI. The reason why is because if you have a dysbiotic gut, a gut that doesn't work, that you don't have the right bugs in there, then you're not going to have something called a glucuronidase, if I can get that right, enzyme, which when estrogen goes through your body and it goes through your system, that holds it so that you can get rid of it. When you don't have that, it just gets recirculated again. So it does double damage, okay? So, and this is more for the thyroid side. So if anyone is dealing with thyroid problems, you may have heard that iodine can help. It might, but if you're not getting regularly tested, then it's a bad idea to take a bunch of iodine because you can cause more problems. So a more natural way to do it is to get a Seek Help supplement. Okay, so that's one of the greens that has the highest level of natural halogens in it, which is like things like iodine. It also has selenium and things like that in it. Okay, adrenal calm. Adrenal calm is fantastic because it has something called GABA in it, which is going to help you to relax. And then L-theanine is an amino acid. It tastes really sweet and allows you to calm down and relax too. So if you're having a hard time going to sleep, then this is some of the best stuff that you can take for cortisol or for thyroid balance. Okay. If you do have a leaky gut, if you are having a dysbiotic gut, if you feel like that's the case, then you need to be supplementing with glutamine. That's one of the best things that you can. And it needs to be a lot. So if you're just supplementing for muscle recovery, then you can take a couple of grams. But if you've got a leaky gut and you're having a lot of autoimmune symptoms or a lot of autoimmune problems, then you want to take something like 10 grams for like the first week every single day, and then up that to about 30 grams. So it's a lot. I mean, that's a good scoop of it. I wouldn't take the pills because that would take forever. And then the multivitamins so that you balance it out so you don't hurt yourself. If anyone does have autoimmune thyroid disease here, then one thing that has been studied is black seed oil. And if you've been my patient, I may have told you that it helps with lower respiratory infections too. But black seed oil is one of the best things that you can do for autoimmune thyroid problems, specifically Hashimoto's. Okay, so with all of this, the way that this is kind of the strategy for why we're prescribing the supplements and why we want you to do the lifestyle and all of that. This is basically what's behind all of that. So the first thing is to remove the pathogens. So we're going to remove that interference first, because if you're not going to remove the thing that's offending your body, then it's not going to get better. And then you need to restore the proper biomechanics for the nervous system, because the nervous system, again, is going to control all of the endocrine functions. So, and then the digestive enzymes, which we talked about, that re-inoculate the gut. So this is the probiotics. So if you've taken a lot of antibiotics, who here has taken an antibiotic? None of you. You've got like 3 people that have ever taken an antibiotic.
Ever? You said, I thought you said who's taking a lot of it.
Oh yeah. I was like, oh yeah, me, and then everyone's hands go up. It's awesome. Okay. Yeah. So if you've ever taken one, then there's a chance that you've decreased the level of gut flora. Okay. So and the problem with that is when you lower that, then the bad bugs start to increase. So things like strep and such. So fiber, if you're not getting enough fiber, get that, because that actually does help with hormones as well. And then leaky gut with the glutamine. Okay. So men, if you're dealing with libido problems, then we're going to give you some of the steps now, and then we're going to jump back into some of the nutrition. This study showed that with a high insulin level, with insulin resistance, men's testosterone levels on average were 25% less. Okay, and low testosterone levels causes a lot of problems. So erectile dysfunction, loss of energy, decreased muscle mass, lowered bone density, none of the things that you really want to have. And guys, if you in the mornings is when your testosterone should be the highest. For men actually cycle every day. I don't know if you guys know that, but we have a cycle every single day. And the morning is the highest. At the end of the day tends to be the lowest. So women, if you ever want us to do anything, we're more docile in the evening. So ask us then. And men, in the morning, you should have a high enough level of testosterone that you know it. Okay, if you know what I'm talking about. Okay, if it's too low and the estrogen has gotten high enough, this is what happens with men. I think this is spelled wrong because it should be gynecomastia. This is where the breasts grow. Okay, have you guys ever seen Fight Club? Okay, got like 3 people. It's a bad reference maybe. Okay. What's that?
Don't want to admit to it.
Yeah, right. Decreased libido, obviously. Infertility, erectile dysfunction, all the same things because it's low testosterone. Okay. So an andropause is just a male version of menopause. It's where the testosterone is shutting off. Okay. This is that study that we just talked about. So it's just saying that insulin resistant causes testosterone to go down. Okay. So the ways to fix that is, I'm going to give you a couple of tricks here. If you can do this. If you can't do this one, we can modify it. But one of the best exercises that you can do to immediately raise your testosterone is called a deadlift. Has anyone ever done a deadlift? Okay, it's really simple. You just pick the weight up off the floor. That's basically what you're doing. But I'm going to give you a little trick, because you don't actually have, if you're being lazy, you don't have to actually pick it up all the way off the floor. You can go from here to here. That's all you need. And what you're doing is tightening the core and the glutes, and you just do that until you're sore, and that alone will put enough blood rushing to that area, as well as increase the amount of large muscles that you're contracting, and that's going to increase testosterone as well as growth hormone. The other thing is going to be kettlebell swings. So this is a kettlebell right there. Not her, but this. Okay. And it's the same motion. So you're taking the same motion and you're pushing the glutes and you're tightening the core to open that up, and that's gonna instantly increase the amount of testosterone that's in your system. Morgan, I think you need an adjustment. I can see you rolling your neck around back there. It's good to see you. So, isn't that cute too? I gotta put a couple of pictures of her in there. Yeah. Okay. So the last thing, and this is good for everybody, every single person should be doing this. This is what the Max T3 is. It's called HIIT training. I didn't spell that wrong. It's high intensity interval training. So it's high intensity. So you want to work at 100%. Have you guys heard of your perfect heart zone? You know, where you want to get your age minus a certain amount, and then you stay there for like an hour, and that's the fat burning zone. That's great, but a better way to increase or to manage your hormones is called HIIT training, and it's a maximum intensity. So you're going 100% for a short period of time. You're burning out all the glycogen in your muscles. That's what you're doing, okay? And beyond that, your body's going to use fat. So what you do, just quickly, because I'm not going to give a program here, is you want to go for 12 minutes, pick 6 exercises, and you want to do it 20 seconds on, 20 seconds off, 3 times each. Does that make sense to everybody? So 12 minutes, 6 exercises, 20 seconds on, 20 seconds off, each exercise 3 times, okay? So what that does is increase the growth hormone, the testosterone, and this is good for women too. So if you're dealing with estrogen dominance, this is gonna really help as well. And circulation, okay? So this is for maximizing testosterone. So reducing stress is one of the #1 things that you can do. We're gonna talk about that later. And then Headspace, that's an app, I'm gonna show you that later as well. Sleep. Does anyone here not get enough sleep? A few people, okay. So that's huge too. You need to get enough sleep to be able to keep up with your hormones, okay? Or your neuropeptides, or your metabolism, or any of those things, okay? And then more saturated fats. Now that may be a little, people think that saturated fats are a bad thing, but if you're getting healthy saturated fats, that is what's creating these hormones. Cholesterol is a saturated fat, so you have to have these in order to create that. In fact, every cell in your body is covered by a lining of fat, of cholesterol. Every single one. Your brain is primarily fat. So you have to have this. So don't think about it as a bad thing. Think about it as a nice energy source. Okay? So some supplements for testosterone production. Probably the strongest that you can take, assuming that you're not testing it, is going to be magnesium and zinc. Now, if you are taking magnesium, make sure you're taking thiamine as well, which is in the B complex, because they're inversely related. If you're taking a bunch of magnesium, it's going to deplete your thiamine. And then with the zinc, make sure you're taking copper, okay? Not too much, because you can make yourself sick, but that's in the men's multi, because they're inversely related as well. It also helps you sleep. So if you are going to get a zinc supplement, make sure you look for one of these 2. Okay, there are others, and not all of them are bad, but this is the best that I've found for absorption, because zinc is not very, it's not absorbed very well. So if you get it from like nuts and seeds and things like that, which is supposed to be the highest, they absorbed. Whereas if you get it from red meat, something like 60% is absorbed. So red meat is actually a better option for getting your zinc in. Okay, B complex. If you do a B complex, make sure that it's methylated. Okay, so if you look at a lot of B vitamins, you'll notice on the back B12 says cyanocobalamin. Okay, that's just a fancy word for B12. Okay, so that's cyanide mixed with a cobalamin. Now it's unlikely to really hurt you, but it's not going to help you. So get the methylcobalamin, because then it's going to give you that methyl group that's going to increase the methylation and help your body to be able to methylate your hormones correctly. Okay? And then the daily detox, so that increases the methionine for methylation. And then the vitamin D, which is a precursor to all your sex hormones. Cool? So Optimal Omega, again, that's for the oxidative stress, and it decreases inflammation. And then Tribulus is huge for, especially if you're over 40. If you're over 40, then Tribulus is one of the best things that you can take. Additionally, it's an herb that helps to increase libido, increase drive, that sort of thing. That's also in the men's multi, which is really helpful. Okay. You can also get that if you go to the gas station and you kind of, you know, the little libido pills on the side. You ever seen those? Yeah. You know, they got energy and they've got like Raging Bull, like libido things or whatever. Yeah. If you look on the back, most of the time it's like caffeine and Tribulus. That's usually what it is. So have at it. So one disclaimer here: if you have liver damage, then you're not going to be producing enough testosterone, and you're going to be producing too much estrogen. A lot of people have liver damage because of all the medications that we've taken over a period of time. The liver is very, very resilient, right? But once it starts breaking down, then you're going to end up with too much sex hormone binding protein, which is not going to allow the testosterone to be produced. So estrogen can actually be turned to testosterone, but this stops it from happening. Okay? Pictures? Yeah. Good. Okay. All right, so we're going to turn the food pyramid upside down. So this is how they should have done it to begin with. This should be where you get the most of your nutrients, which is going to be the fat. This is where you should get the secondary, which is the meat and the dairy. Dairy's, for some people, not so much. Fruits and veggies, and then the breads. Okay, so the standard American diet is completely, totally backwards. Why do you think we have so much heart disease, so much cancer, so many of these different things that are happening? It's because this is totally, totally backwards. Okay. So one of the big things and why I think that every single one of my patients should be taking an omega is that whenever you're eating conventionally raised meat, does anyone here eat red meat?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? Does anyone here not eat red meat? Okay, a few. That's cool. Okay. Little Anthony's like, nah, I don't eat red meat. If you get it conventionally raised, you get a ratio that's much higher than it should be. So the ratio should be 2 to 1 to 4 to 1, something like that, of omega-6 to omega-3. So 2 omega-6s to 1 omega-3. When you're getting conventional meat, then you're getting 25 to 1. So you're increasing that inflammation. Way, way, way high. So this is like if you go out, you go out to the steakhouse or whatever, you get a nice steak, it's probably awesome. And then you get the onion rings, and then you get the potato, so you've got all the starches, you've got all that kind of stuff. It's increasing the inflammation. You feel great for a little while, and then of course you're crashing. And then all of a sudden that shoulder starts to bother you, that achy shoulder, or that hip starts to bother you a little bit. And what's happening is the inflammation's going up because your body's using what's called prostaglandins, which is increasing that inflammation to deal with the oxidative stress. So what do you do when your shoulder's aching or your neck's aching or your hip's aching? What do you do? Yeah, you take an ibuprofen or something, right? So the ibuprofen goes in there and it cuts off those prostaglandins, which then makes you feel better, but the oxidative stress continues. So you're actually working against your body by doing that. So you can see how an accumulation of doing this sort of habit over time causes serious, serious damage and aging to your cells and to your body. Okay. Also, if you're too inflamed, you're going to be really, really irritable. If you ever know those people that are just always irritable and like no matter what, they're gonna find something bad about the world. Get them off the sugar. Get them off the inflammation. They'll be much, much nicer. They may still not be great, but they'll be better. They won't get in your face as much. Okay, huge, huge differences. Okay, so we're going to talk about these real quick. So this is the core plan. I want everyone here to be on the advanced plan, and that's what I live on. So it gives you more energy than you'd ever need, gives you better sleep, it gives you better hormone balance, you have better energy management, all of that. But the core plan is awesome too. So this is where the core plan is a little bit easier. So it allows you to eat carbohydrates, where I eat almost none. Okay, so some people think that carbohydrates are actually, you've probably been taught in school that carbohydrates are necessary for you to live, right? It's not really true. So what happens is when you eat no carbohydrates, your body will take whatever fat it has and cut it up and turn it into the fuel that it needs for your muscles and for your brain and for your body and all of those kinds of things, okay? And you're gonna get carbohydrates and stuff anyway if you're eating vegetables. You should always eat vegetables. So, but with this one, you can eat things like brown rice, you can eat things like sweet potatoes, you can eat things like quinoa, you can eat things like some of the starchier vegetables, but you still wanna avoid the higher glycemic fruits unless it's like right after a workout. No bread still, so none of the gluten, none of the wheat. That's still inflammatory for the gut. Okay, protein, naturally raised, and you want moderate amounts. Okay, if you're working out a lot, then you can increase that, but really you don't need that much. If you get too much, then what it does is breaks it down, turns it into sugar, insulin goes up, and then it's just like you ate more sugar. And then fat is awesome, so you want to be able to get more fat. And I've got some studies here in a second. Does anyone here know what a good fat is? Give me an example. Everyone, yeah, everyone says avocado. What's the other big one? Coconut, yeah, those are the big ones. But there's other ones too. So there's like tallow, which is like beef fat. You might think, oh God, beef fat? That sounds like a heart attack, right? But it's not. Grass-fed butter. Have you guys ever had Kerrygold butter? It's awesome. It's awesome. Kerrygold, it's the brand. So it's grass-fed butter.
Is that the ghee stuff?
Ghee is different. Ghee is butter, but you can get that too. Actually, ghee or grass-fed butter with some coconut oil blended in some coffee is really good. So I know it sounds crazy, but it's really good. It's called bulletproof coffee. Some other ones, grapeseed oil is actually okay. Just don't heat it too high. Olive oil is awesome. The flax and chia seeds and all of that kind of stuff. Hazelnut oil, all the nut oils except for peanut oil is really good, as long as it's not super heated. The ones that can take a lot of heat are things like the tallow, which is the beef fat. The coconut oil can take higher fat or higher heat, and the grass-fed butter can take a little bit higher heat. You just don't want it to start smoking. If it starts smoking, then you got a problem. Okay. So this is a study real quick. So this is the advanced plan is basically the ketogenic diet, and I want you guys to see this. So this is a study. This is just one of them of the many, and they put them on an almost exclusively fat diet with a little bit of protein and no carbohydrates. And this is what happened. They ended up reducing their body weight, body mass index, decreased their triglycerides, lowered their bad cholesterol and their blood glucose, and increased the level of HDL, which is their good cholesterol. Okay, so all good things, right? So it's amazing how that works, and yet we've been demonizing this fat thing for so long. Yeah. And that came from, I told the story in the last workshop, so I'll save it for maybe the next one, but it was done on a false premise. Okay, this is another one. Go ahead.
When you do that, you go through ketosis, right? And
yeah, you don't have to, but yes.
But is that not good for your kidneys to do?
No, that's it depends. So if you have certain kidney diseases, then you don't want to do that. But what you're probably thinking is ketoacidosis, which is like what happens with diabetics can't absorb the sugar, and so their ketones go way up, and it acidifies the blood, and they end up with a lot of problems. But that's like way higher than you'll ever get it naturally. This is like a big problem that happens. So yeah, you'll be totally fine. If you're worried about it, you can always get it tested though. So this is another cool one. This is a ketogenic diet, and turns out that cancer has a really hard time surviving in a ketotic environment. So if you're worried about cancer, then do the advanced plan. Okay. And the reason that the first people who ever created the ketogenic diet was actually Johns Hopkins University, and they did it for kids with epilepsy, and it was the best treatment that they ever found to stop epilepsy. Amazing, isn't it? So the core plan with the protein, we've already been through this. So you want naturally raised meat. You don't want meat that's been on a feed lot that's just been eating grain, and they feed them candy sometimes and all kinds of crazy stuff. You want cows that have been free grazing, that are happy, not just for the humane reasons, but because they're eating, you are becoming what that thing was, right? So if they're out and they're eating nutrients that came out of the ground rather than something that was mass produced and genetically modified and sprayed, then you're going to be much healthier for it. Okay, over the long haul. And this could be all kinds of stuff. So lamb, in fact, you can eat pork as long as it's as long as you can find a good source for it. And if you do find a good source for it, please let me know, because I have not been able to find it. Okay. So with the carbohydrates, you want to stick to the lower glycemic. So the glycemic is dealing with how it spikes your insulin. So if your insulin spikes, you're not losing weight. I'll give you that, okay? If your insulin is low, you will start losing weight. You cannot lose weight in a high insulin environment unless you're diabetic, and that's just a different problem, okay? So you want to do the lower glycemic carbs. So this is vegetables, and they're always good anytime. So the moderate ones are going to be things like the sweet potatoes and stuff like that. So you can eat those. And then the higher glycemic are going to be like a banana. So again, after you work out, if you're want some sugar or whatever, then you can get a banana, you can get an apple, whatever the case may be. But you don't want to do it too late in the day, because it's going to increase the insulin, which is going to increase the cortisol, which is going to make you not able to sleep as well. It's going to increase inflammation and all that kind of stuff. Okay? And then with refined carbs, so the white bread, the white sugar, the flours, the pastas, the pancakes, the waffles, all that kind of stuff, unless they're specially made, then avoid those all together. Okay? Maybe once a week. Whatever, as long as you're being good. Okay. So this is just for your information. Insulin is used to drive estrogen production. So this is especially important for people with PCOS or any kind of cystic ovarian syndromes, because if you've already got estrogen dominance problems and you're increasing the insulin, it's going to drive more estrogen. And for people with PCOS, that ends up into an androgenic kind of state, which causes more male characteristics to show up. But also for men, just like we talked about before, with the increase in insulin resistance causes a decrease in testosterone. Okay. The grains damage your intestines. With the cruciferous vegetables, does anyone know what a cruciferous, if I can speak, cruciferous vegetable is? Broccoli, yeah.
Broccoli's good. You know, carrots. Not so much citrus there, but you know.
Carrots, no.
Cauliflower.
Cauliflower, yeah. So broccoli, cauliflower, kale, spinach, asparagus, some of the collard greens. Very, very, very healthy. You need to be eating 7 to 10 cups of those a day. So that's like, it's like that much. Like if you had a funnel that was like that big and you could just stick it in there, yeah, that's about how big. So my suggestion, the easiest way to get that down is just to get a really awesome blender and put like a ton of it in your smoothie and just drink it. So sweeten it up with some berries or something like that and drink it. That way you're actually getting this. This is the best way to balance your thyroid and to balance your estrogen and to detox your body because it has massive amounts of vitamins, fiber, nutrients, minerals, all of those kinds of things. Cool? And then the sea kelp that we talked about before. I've gotten to where every patient that comes through here gets one of these because it's that important. I want everyone to know what they're doing because nutrition is so important. Okay, so if you don't have that, then the book, which is right here, then make sure that you pick one up because the first about half of it is exactly why we're doing what we're doing, and then it goes through the core plan, it goes through the advanced plan in a little bit more detail, and then beyond that is a bunch of recipes and things like that, which you guys are going to get to try here in just a minute. Or did I pass that already? Okay, you can hand them out.
Forewarning, does anyone have peanut allergies?
None?
No?
Okay.
We're good, because these do have peanut butter in them. These are chocolate peanut butter, and these are lemon.
So we didn't sweeten these too much with stevia, so they might, they're not super sweet. So if you like super sweet things, then it is what it is.
And I have exactly enough for one per person. Literally.
What's this one?
This one's lemon.
Lemon, chocolate.
This one's chocolate peanut butter.
Oh, I got it.
So like one of each, I have exactly enough.
There's no food coloring in this.
No.
No, this is
I would
all
never use
organic.
food
All organic. The only bad thing is the plastic it's stored in.
You don't talk about one of each.
These are lemon.
Isn't Anna awesome? She made all these.
Oh, Anna got after this.
Definitely not.
Pretty wild.
What is this?
Close. It's okay, I got you.
It's called a fat bomb.
Never was a basketball
All right,
player.
how did you make this?
I
You wanna
have the
tell 'em?
recipe up on the counter.
Yeah.
For both of them? Yes, both of them, the recipes are on the counter.
Yep. And you can make them sweeter or less sweet. We just happen to make them less sweet. So enjoy.
Pretty good.
Now everybody's busy. All right, so I'm going to move into the next segment, and this is one of the most important. This is probably the most important thing that we teach, and it's part of the mindset. And I had a sweet dear patient this morning that I was talking to, and she just keeps getting. Her health has just been degrading over the last year. I mean, just degrading. And so she's asking about all these tests that we can run and all these supplements that she can take, and different therapies that she can do and other doctors that she can go to. But I know from her history that she's had a lot of trauma. I mean, some serious trauma. And she hasn't been able to let go of that. And so I want you guys to know that your mind has the power to make you well or to make you sick. Okay, so if you're holding on to things, then and you're not letting them go or you're not able to get through them, then they're gonna make you sick, okay? So make sure that you're able to do that, and we're gonna talk about it just a little bit. If you're under a lot of stress, especially emotional stress, then you're going to end up with a lot more fat storage. You're going to end up with higher blood pressure. All these things that you've heard about, increase in cortisol, adrenal burnout, those kinds of things. And what's happening is the body's preparing for another trauma, or it's waiting for it's waiting for battle basically. So it's kind of that fight or flight system that also leads to things like autoimmune diseases, like fibromyalgia, all kinds of crazy things. Okay, so this is my solution. So you just get one of these. Each of you guys will get one. You can print it out and just put it where you need to put it. Yeah, just put it on the door. Repeat as necessary. So really though, we're going to talk about something really important. And I put a video on Facebook. I think like 3 people watched it. So, but I was talking about the most important thing that's more important than chiropractic, that's more important than nutrition, that's more important than the exercise and the detox and all of that is for reducing stress is going to be what I call the war plan. So that is scheduling. It's proper scheduling. So what you're going to do in the very simple terms is you're going to have something called Google Calendar, or you can have a hard copy if you like that. And most people amazingly don't do anything like this. So find out what your goals are. What is it that you want to do? Do you want to be do you want to lose weight? Do you want to be financially secure? Do you want to get a job promotion? And then write down the things that you're going to need to do in order to push yourself towards that. You have to plan it. You can't just let life happen to you. It doesn't work. You're going to end up burning out. It's not going to work. So you have to plan that in and commit to it, and then you'll be able to achieve that goal. So you find that calendar. You put in the things that you can't change. So things like work, things like dealing with your children. Those things you can't change. Okay. And then you're going to put in what's called solid yellow lines, okay? So this is like the lines on the road. You can't cross them. So these are things for your health. So this is like going to the gym. This is like doing things that are going to push you forward in business. These are things that are going to increase your relationships, okay? So, you know, health is defined as the optimal function of your body and not merely the absence of sickness or disease. The function socially, spiritually, physically, and mentally. Okay, so you need to be able to put those things in, and you can't cross them. So who's going to get better? The person who works out one time a month, or the person who solidly for an hour, right? Or the person who does it 5 minutes every single day? Yeah, it's going to be the person who does it every single day. So even if it's something small and you put it in there and it becomes a habit, that's how you're going to move forward. Okay, so but what most people do is they stick. This is the Covey's 4 quadrants, and they usually stick in a couple of different areas. So I want to show you this real quick. So the first area here are things that are super urgent and they're super important. So this is like you get a call from the school nurse and your kid is like throwing up all over the place, right? So you got to go deal with that, okay? Or your like house is on fire, or you're about to get fired from your job if you don't show up, that kind of thing. A lot of us live in that state. That's when you're going to have that super high cortisol, like fight or flight kind of mode, and we all deal with it. But a lot of us put ourselves in that state, okay? Where most of us hang out are going to be right here. So these are things that are urgent, but they're not really important, okay? So these are things like interruptions, like you're trying to get work done and you get that email or you get that text message or that person keeps coming in and talking to you, so you can't have any like solid focus. Or you see the Facebook thing pop up, or you just, you know, whatever, and you want to click on that, and then you go back to your work, and then you know, back and forth, and then 8 hours later you've done like nothing. So, but we all live in that kind of category because it's easy. Okay. The other category is the things that just don't matter at all. It's just like vegging out, watching TV, and doing nothing. And I'm not talking about planned in, solid yellow line rest. That's one thing, but just scrolling Facebook mindlessly, you know, for hours. No one else does that? Okay. Maybe it's just me. Where we need to be, so the first one where this is a symptom, whereas this is the cure, okay? This is the cause of the problem. This is the cure. This is where you want to be, okay? This is where prevention happens. This is the solid yellow lines. These are things that are not necessarily urgent right now, that will be in the future, but they're really important, okay? So if you want to have a good social life, you're going to have to plan that in and deal with planning events with friends and things like that. I've had so many people that are like, yeah, I don't have any friends because, you know, everyone's so busy or they don't have time or whatever. I'm like, well, did you plan any time in the future? No, I asked them to hang out last night and well, they couldn't. I'm like, well, you asked them like 5 minutes before. Yeah, come on, they have a family and stuff. So you can't do that. So you don't want to do that. Recreation, you know, if you want to have fun, if you want to have a fun life, if you want to have a vacation, you can't just happen upon a vacation. You have to plan that in, financially plan it in, time manage it in, that kind of thing. If you want to get a better body, you have to plan it in. So this is where you want to live.
I'm going to take that picture.
Oh, go ahead. This is out of a book called what is it? Yes, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Yes, Covey. Yep. And these are actually the 7 habits here. You have that in your booklet there. I don't want to talk about all of them. They're all awesome, but the first 2 are the one that I just want to talk about quickly. So being proactive. So that's doing it, right? You could think about it all day long. You can worry about failure all day long, but you have to jump out and just do it. Just do it, okay? And when you do it, that comes with the second one, which is going to be keeping the end in mind, okay? So if you do want to lose weight, how are you going to do it? Why are you going to do it? What are you going to do? And then you can plan backwards so that you can actually reach that goal. Because if you just say, hey, I want to lose 30 pounds and I'm going to do that by going to the gym. That's it. What are the chances that you're actually going to put that into place and you're going to lose that weight? Zero. You know it. Yeah, that's what a New Year's resolution is, isn't it? So yeah, it doesn't work. So you plan it in. If you actually want it, you'll plan it in. You'll put the steps in. And I actually spend, you can ask my wife, I try to on Sundays, I spend about an hour looking over my schedule and finding time to put in the things that actually matter. Because if you just go through the day and you have this giant to-do list, all these things to do, and you're going through the entire day, but you haven't planned it out, you're going to do things, but it's going to be the things that just happen to be there. It's not going to be the things that actually move you forward. Okay, so most of those things don't really matter, or you can delegate them to somebody else. Do the things that matter, do the things that make you happy, do the things that move you forward. Okay, so this is also great for, this is called Headspace. It's an app, everyone should download it. This is one of the best ways and easiest ways to decrease stress. Okay, if you're anything like me, I'm like super analytical, introverted. You know, a good time for me is like sitting at home, like drinking a glass of wine and reading a book. And not a fiction book either, like a nonfiction, like a biology book or something. So that's what so this helps me to calm down. It's an app called Headspace, and basically you just spend 10 minutes and they kind of walk you through a meditation, okay? Now this is not a spiritual meditation. I'm as conservative as they come. I don't like all that woozy, floozy, flowery kind of stuff. This is simply scientifically walks you through to where it's almost like, maybe you guys can relate, maybe you can't, where you just have that kind of wiry thoughts. They're just all over the place. You can't seem to like grasp where you're at. You feel like you're kind of sitting under them. This allows you to kind of step back and look at it and then sort it out and then put it back, and then you can go about your day and you feel like you're a lot more organized, you're a lot more calm, and then situations where you would normally get real irritable, you'll find that you're not getting as irritable. Okay, really cool stuff. Okay, this is the resources that we have on discount right now, so 15% off today. This is for the people with really any kind of adrenal burnout, so that's why I wanted to put these up here. The adrenal column is going to be the GABA, and the B complex is going to be the methylated form, which is really good for all of them. Okay, and the most important part, obviously, is going to be the brain-spine connection. So the endocrine system is a slave to the spinal system. Okay, so if you have any damage or any pressure, even if it hasn't been there for very long, it's causing problems that are going to be long-lasting over a period of time. So if you, for example, lose the curve in your neck, and you guys should know this. If you've never been here, then maybe you don't. But if you lose the curve in your neck, then what's going to happen is it's going to start pulling on the spinal cord, and it's going to start shutting down some of the systems that work in that area, and I'll show you that. The other thing is, if you lose that curve, or if you develop curves here, no matter what, you're going to start developing arthritis in those areas. Okay, you're going to start putting stress on all the ligaments and tendons and everything else around it. So we want to make sure that it's functioning better than anything else before we start doing the supplementing and all of that kind of stuff. Okay, so this is what a normal curve looks like. Okay, see this is the spinal cord of a cadaver that was cut open. See how this is nice and smooth? Okay, you can see the brain right there. That's how it should look. Okay, nice curve that's right here, angled right there. So this is how the brain sends all of its signals down to the thyroid gland and down to the adrenals and then down to the reproductive organs. That's how that works. So if we have something like this, which is a backwards curve, it's putting damage and it's putting pressure on the nervous system right here. This is an MRI. You can see how this is where the spinal cord is. Can you see how this is closed off like a dam? So is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? It's a bad thing, and everyone should be able to see that and know that. And one way that affects you is that serotonin is actually created and used by an area right here in the brainstem. Okay, it's also in the gut, but it's right here. So we're looking for people that are like this. Okay, this poor lady, she thought that she was going to be on medications for the rest of her life, but by applying all the 5 essentials, she had the ability to change. Okay, so if people that are this age and this, male, female, whatever, if they can get healing, then anybody can get healing. So we're looking for the sick and the suffering people, and a lot of them don't know that this exists. So that's your job. So help us out with that. How does hormones have to do with your brain? Did you guys know that C1 right here is connected to right near the brainstem right there? Not only does it control a lot of the blood pressure, but it controls serotonin, which is in what's called the raphe nuclei right here, and sends it up into your brain. So serotonin makes you happy, or it makes you sad. It also deals with estrogen, because serotonin will turn into estrogen as well. Okay? So if you lose that cervical curve, then you're actually losing that. So how many people are sitting at desks all day long and they have no idea that that's happening? There's a ton. There's a ton. So we want to get those people checked, okay? So if you're on that spectrum of health, you know, you have that 100% where you're functioning right here. If you're starting to experience symptoms, then you're already down by 60%, because you won't experience symptoms until you're down to that point, okay? So things like headaches, depression, acid reflux, hypertension, sciatica, all the things that a lot of people are dealing with and they go get medications for instead of getting it actually corrected, okay? Or like this lovely lady who's lost 28 pounds and 7 medications. And I like how she wrote this. She's free. So she's no longer in bondage to the medical system and feeling like she has to take these medications to survive, okay? So you can go a ton of time without food and water and air and all of that. You can't go a second without nerve supply. And it's been proven. So this is actually Harvard that's saying that chiropractors do help the body to heal itself, okay? This is for the treatment of headaches, okay? Migraines, headaches. This is Johns Hopkins again, that help with function. This is for back and neck pain. Of course, it works for that. And the evidence keeps growing and growing. One of the weaknesses that we've had in our field as chiropractors is that we don't have enough research. Okay, we need more research, but we don't have giant industrial, you know, the pharmacological companies giving us money so that we can do the studies. So we have to come up with it on our poor little selves, you know, trying to come up with this evidence. But it's coming along and we're getting even more and more things. This is for pregnancy, okay? So we've had a lot of really cool stuff with pregnancy. In fact, you'll see a guy on the wall over here. He goes by Baby Bull. He's a boxer. His wife came in and she was infertile. She came in for back pain, started adjusting her, and she got pregnant. So it was just because the nerves that go from the back go to the reproductive organs and allowed it to heal itself. We've had a lot of other guys that have had erectile dysfunction get similar results. Not pregnant, but that would be amazing. We need some research on that. And then this is the last one. Some people have heard that, or they're scared that the chiropractors cause strokes, and this is showing that it absolutely does not. So there's absolutely no compared to primary care. Pretty crazy. So if you do know anyone, or if you yourself would like to sign up, then please do that. We have something really cool for you guys. So first of all, we'll do a history consultation. We'll do SEMG, thermography, as well as full spine x-rays if you want to get that done, or if it's needed, any orthopedic or neurological exams, depending on what you have. And I've never done this before, but because we talked about all the methylation and everything, if you do want to become a patient here and you're not, then just for coming in for an initial consultation, we're going to give you the detox system, which is $75, completely free, so that's just yours. And I want to extend that to anyone who brings a friend to the dinner, okay? So if you'd like to come to our community dinner where we go out and we pay for your dinner with you and a friend that has not been there already, and because we get that sometimes too. We love you all, but there's only so much I can do. So, and bring a friend, then we're going to be able to teach them about the principles of health. And we'll have a call to action, obviously, and if they want to come in and get help, then they can. If not, then that's okay too, and no big deal. We love them anyway. But we're actively looking for people that are hurting and suffering and are on a lot of medications and feel like they have no hope. And I can't always find them, and you guys are out there being the people for us. So, community dinner, May 25th, so that's next week on a Thursday. So if you come, if you bring anybody, I'm going to give you a kit, okay? All you have to do is bring them, and you get that kit for free, okay? And then Shop with the Doc is actually this Tuesday, and it's completely free as well. And Dr. Abby is going to be taking you guys to Sprouts right here, just down the street, and teaching you exactly what to eat and what not to eat. She's going to walk you around, show you what to buy. Really, really fun. That's one of our favorite events. So, and before I finish, that's my shopping the other day. So, did anyone find anything valuable?
Oh, everything.
Yeah, we got a couple of nods, just a little bit. Okay. So hopefully, because the purpose is to bring as much value as I possibly can. That's why we're here. So the hormone talk is fun because we don't have to market it at all. I mean, we just, like I said, we just put up the things and people come. But before we leave, can I close out with some prayer? You guys cool with that? Okay. So I'm going to do it now. Dear Lord, thank you so much for life. thank you so much for the systems that you've put in place. Thank you so much for balance. And we ask that if there are any sick and suffering people here, that God, you'll heal them. And Lord, I just thank you for the grace that you've given all of us, even though we don't deserve it. And just keep us safe on our way homes. And we love you in Jesus' name. Amen. Almost, I was 4 minutes late.